Welcome, Westgate worship team. We thought it'd be fun just to kind of invite you into our living room. I guess it's your living room a little bit too, because you live on the weekends here with us. But we just wanted to share with you just kind of our hearts on leading worship, specifically just the visual component of when we step into this place of leading. And so we thought it'd be fun just to gather and just kind of share some of our perspectives on it, and maybe give some tangible things that would help us all as a team just grow a little bit more. I mean, when we think about coming and serving our people in worship, the truth is we have to prepare in many different ways. And there's really two mechanisms. There's kind of that preparer, and then there's that kind of presenter mode that we're in, and trying not to muddle those two categories. When you're home alone, that's preparing. When you're on the stage during rehearsal, sound check, that's preparing. But then when we actually switch gears is when we're leading our people, and at that point, there's a visual component to being a presenter, and we just want to talk a little bit about that.
That's great. Yeah, I think one of the things we had chatted about, and I think it's a great value for all of us to just kind of wrap our heads around, is that even though there might be someone leading the team or sort of kind of pointing the direction, kind of guiding it, every single player in the band is really leading. We're all leading worship together as a family, as a group of friends. And so, just because you're sort of maybe in the background playing keys, you're still leading worship with us. And so I think that's one thing sort of might be a kind of a shift in perspective for some of us would be really helpful to go, wow, well, all right, I'm leading worship too.
Step into that role as a leader. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking a little bit. What's the kind of the visual part of it for you? I mean, what kind of things do you kind of attach to and try to think about? We talk about like facial expressions and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So for myself, a big part of the preparation side that I do before I come on a Saturday or Sunday is really meditating on the lyrics and knowing what I'm singing about. And so when we're in the moment of leading the congregation in worship, I'm really deeply thinking about what those words are. And in particular, if it's something that's ministering to the people, so I gave the example of Unstoppable God. A new song for us, very powerful song. We are singing that God can break chains in people's lives. So that week and in the moment that we're leading, I am thinking about who in this congregation is suffering through something and they need God to come and intervene in a powerful way. So I think really like bringing the lyrics from the head down into the heart, that's huge. And then how can your body be congruent with the lyrics of that song? So sometimes smiling is very appropriate, bringing the joy of the Lord, but sometimes this is more about warfare and fighting, and I'm doing that with my hands, I'm doing that with my body stance, I'm looking confident and not afraid because I'm communicating to the congregation that God can overcome. And so if I was fearful and not moving and looking down, that would communicate a message that wasn't in line with what the lyrics are that I'm saying.
And that's I think what hurts us sometimes is we feel like we're drawing attention to ourselves if we're moving, but the truth is we draw attention to ourselves if we look disengaged. And when there's all these funny words for being a stand zombie or just staring at your music stand, and that actually does a disservice to our people. I mean, if you use the adage of like, well, we're trying to disappear, if we really believe that, we'd have a curtain in front of the band, but we don't, because if you think of communication, what do they say? 80 to 90% is the visual component, and then the actual words that you say are less important. So the visual part of what we do really matters a lot.
That's true. So there's a couple things I think we're trying to communicate. One is what Karina was saying, just internalizing what it is that we're singing about. So part of that is memorization, which we're all guilty of this, where we don't necessarily know our songs that well, and then we're kind of getting glued to the music just because we feel like we have to, because we're like, I'm going to miss that chord, I'm going to miss that word. But all of a sudden then, where does that take us, right? It takes us kind of stuck to our music, unable to then engage with the people that we're called out to lead that day or that moment. And so part of it is, let's work harder on just memorizing our stuff, internalizing it, so that, as Karina shared, we can be congruent with what we're singing. We can be not glued to our music, but we can be able to really lead worship together. Yeah,
well, just one thought on that too. If you do have a chart in front of you while we're leading our people, they would tell you when you're sight reading or reading a chart, play what you're playing, but then look 2 or 3 bars ahead. And so you can easily grab a line of chords or a line of a phrase of lyrics and then look up. Even if you have to have the stand there, And so you don't have to be buried in it, but you're kind of moving ourselves away from that.
That's good. Weaning ourselves off.
That's right.
So Mark and I just talked to a worship leader last week, and he made this comment we really resonated with. He said, visually, if we are not expressing the words that we're saying, if we're not sort of matching that visually, we are betraying the truth of what is coming out of our lips, or what it is that we're singing as a band or playing as a band. And so I love that. I'm like, oh, wow, gosh, we don't want to betray the truth. We want to align with what it is that we're saying, and then put our whole selves into that. So, hey, we were just talking about having fun as a band and letting that show. I mean, playing off of each other and being aware of each other on stage. Like, you think of bands like, I don't know, Coldplay or somebody like that, who puts on a great, they're putting on a show. We're not doing that, but they're also not just wanting everyone to look at them. They're wanting people to get caught up in the artistic expression that they have created together, and they're into it, and they're bringing people into it. How much more should we be wanting to engage people with what's happening? For the main purpose, it's not about us. It's not about a band. It's not about a song even. It's about the God of the universe who's created us, who's made this art, who's given us these gifts, and we're to encounter God. And how much more effectively should we be, or could we strive to be, in engaging people into that encounter with God?
So maybe a couple practical things with that. One thing that we played with last weekend that I instantly saw some folks take to really well. You got these carpets that we're sitting on. If you're standing on a carpet, I would tell you, rock the rug. If you can, walk to the entire perimeter of it in an appropriate way. I mean, you just want to run around in circles, but I mean, if you want to walk to the edge, there's nothing stronger when you're leading to take a step forward to the congregation. There's nothing weaker than when you take a step backwards. So if you could, like the electric guitar player last week, when he did his solo, he kind of walked out to the edge. I noticed the singer on the stage right side, as she was singing, even backup, she walked to the far right end of the rug. Let's play around a little bit. We're going to put some tape down on here, and for the singers or bass player, come out from that slot. Just a little bit of movement, looking at, like I said, looking at another musician, really goes a long ways.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think, too, some important things for keyboard and drums, because you guys cannot walk around, but you both have the same call as everybody else. So you've got to do this all with your eyes and with your face. So what Josh said about maybe working to memorize your charts so you're less down, that's very helpful. And making some eye contact with the congregation, moving around, and even though you're not mic'd, singing the words to the song. That's true for everybody, even bass, electric guitar. Not the whole song, but when you've got some moments, I am alive, whatever is jumping out at you, just kind of lip sync along with us so that the congregation can see that you're engaged as well.
So those are a few practical things, and we would just invite you, let's experiment with it. And one of the best times is our sound check. I mean, as you kind of get more comfortable with the song, practice a little bit coming out and looking at the drummer if you're a bass player, or if you're a keyboard player, like you said, look up or sing the lyrics on a section. If you're a singer, practice going to the edge of the rug and just kind of see how that feels. And let's see if we can grow a little bit as a team that way.
Okay, so when I was leading worship over at South Hills, I got a really cool letter one day from someone in the congregation. And it said that that particular Sunday they had come in with some heavy stuff going on in their life. They were not in the mood for worship at all. And she looked up, and the drummer, the way he was worshiping had struck her so much, it drew her into worship. She wrote down, man, that drummer, the way that he was worshiping today drew me in and totally pulled me out of the attitude and the funk that I was in. And you just think, the drummer is stuck in this position. He can't move around. He can't lift his hands. So how could a drummer express that much worship just with his face, by singing the songs, by looking out, by playing with confidence and fun, and just worshiping himself in a way that actually impacted this woman and changed her day for the good.
It becomes powerful for people when they see you engaged like that.
Yeah.
It draws them in and it speaks to them.
Yeah.
So.
And I love the outcome wasn't like this drummer got attention, but the outcome was that this woman was deeply encouraged and had her eyes on Jesus. What a cool story.
Yeah. So just a testimony that everybody on the team is a worship leader, for
Yes.
sure.
Awesome.
We love you guys. Keep on. Let's grow together as a team.
You rock. So here's our rendition of what we don't want us to do.
Don't
Ready?
do this.
1, 2.
You are alive in me. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free.
You are my freedom.